Have you ever wondered where the game of football originated? The tale of football is a rich tapestry woven through time and across continents. It begins not with a whistle, but with ancient civilizations and their love for ball games. In the annals of ancient China, over 2,000 years ago, we find a game that bears a striking resemblance to football. Known as Kuju, which translates to kickball, it was a popular sport during the Han Dynasty. Players would aim to kick a leather ball filled with feathers into a small net, all without the use of their hands. Sound familiar? Meanwhile, in the age-old scripts of India, there's mention of a similar game called Kemari, or Sepak Takraw. This was a game of skill, where players would use their feet, chest, knees and head to keep a ball in the air, highlighting the importance of ball control, much like in modern football. Traveling westward to ancient Rome and Greece, we find other precursors to football. The Greeks played a game called Episkairos, where two teams would try to throw a ball over the opposing team's boundary line. The Romans had a game known as Harpastum, which was a blend of rugby and football and was played with a smaller, harder ball. However, these were not football as we know it today. Each of these games was unique with its own set of rules and style of play, but they all shared a common thread: the joy of playing with a ball. They laid the groundwork for the sport we love today, each contributing elements that would eventually evolve into the game of football. So, while these ancient games were not football as we know it, they laid the groundwork for the sport we love today. The seeds of football were sown in these ancient civilizations, and over the centuries, they sprouted into the exhilarating sport that captivates billions today. Fast forward to medieval Europe, where we see the emergence of a game more recognizable as football. This was a time when towns and villages across the continent indulged in a rough-and-tumble sport known as mob football. The name mob football was apt, as this was a game that involved an entire mob of people. These games were played between neighboring towns and villages, with teams consisting of unlimited numbers of participants. The goal? To drive a ball into the opponent's goal, which could be miles away. These matches were not for the faint of heart. They were often violent and chaotic, with few rules to govern the play. While the rules varied from place to place, certain elements began to take shape that are familiar to us today. The concept of moving a ball towards a goal, the use of a designated playing area, and the idea of teams competing against each other were all part of mob football. It was a far cry from the organized sport we know today, but the foundations were being laid. In some regions, there were attempts to introduce more structure to the game. For example, in the French game La Soule, teams were often equal in number and the playing field was more defined. In England, Shrovetide football saw entire towns participate in annual matches that could last for days, with the goals set miles apart. Despite its unruly nature, mob football was incredibly popular. It was a game that brought communities together, a game that was about more than just kicking a ball. It was about camaraderie, competition, and local pride. But as we move forward in time, we see a shift. The chaos of mob football gives way to a desire for more organization, more structure. The game begins to evolve, to refine itself, and it's in this evolution that we start to see the birth of the sport we know and love today. While still not the football we know today, we're getting closer. The real turning point in football's evolution came in the late 18th and early 19th centuries in England. As the sport gained popularity, it became clear that a set of standard rules was required to ensure fair play and order. The year 1863 marked a significant milestone in football's history with the creation of the Football Association of England, often referred to as the FA. Prior to this, various forms of the game were played with differing rules, causing confusion and inconsistency. The FA's formation aimed to rectify this, establishing a unified code of rules that could be followed across all matches and teams. A group of representatives from different English football clubs gathered in the Freemasons Tavern in London. Over the course of a series of meetings, they debated, discussed, and eventually agreed upon a set of rules that would govern the game. These rules addressed various aspects, from the size of the pitch and the ball, to the number of players in a team. They also made a crucial decision that distinguished football from rugby: the prohibition of using hands to touch the ball. The formalization of these rules was a significant development. It not only standardized the game in England but also laid the foundation for football as we know it today. The FA's rules became the blueprint for all subsequent national football organizations, setting a precedent that would be followed worldwide. This was a time of transformation for the sport. Football moved from being a game of local customs and traditions to one of universally accepted rules and regulations. The FA's contribution to this evolution cannot be overstated. Their dedication to the game's integrity and fairness paved the way for football's global spread and enduring popularity. In the decades that followed, these rules were tweaked and refined, shaping the game into what we now recognize as modern football. From the pitch sizes to the prohibition of hand usage, these rules have stood the test of time, continuing to guide the beautiful game. And just like that, the game of football as we know it was born. With rules in place, football quickly gained popularity across Europe and eventually the world. As the sport spread, it was clear that an international governing body was needed to standardize rules and oversee international competition. Thus, in 1904, the International Football Association, or FIFA, was founded in Paris. This assembly of football associations from France, Belgium, Denmark, the Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, and Switzerland marked a significant milestone in the history of football. It symbolized not only the sport's growing international appeal but also the beginning of a new era in which football would be organized and regulated on a global scale. FIFA's foundation laid the groundwork for the organization of international competitions, fostering a sense of global unity through the shared love of football. A mere 26 years after its establishment, FIFA embarked on an ambitious project, the organization of the first World Cup. In 1930, the inaugural FIFA World Cup took place in Uruguay. This event was a landmark in the history of the sport. It was the first time teams from different continents competed for the title of world champions. Despite the logistical challenges of the time, including long and arduous sea voyages for many teams, the tournament was a resounding success. It captured the imagination of millions worldwide, further boosting the sport's popularity. The significance of the first World Cup cannot be overstated. It was a testament to the unifying power of football, bringing together nations from around the globe in friendly competition. It set the stage for the World Cup to become one of the most watched sporting events globally, with billions of fans tuning in every 4 years. The establishment of FIFA and the organization of the first World Cup were pivotal moments in the history of football. They marked the sport's transition from a game enjoyed in local parks and school fields to a global phenomenon watched and loved by billions. The stage was now set for football to become the global phenomenon it is today. Fast forward to the present day, and football is more than just a sport. Indeed, football has evolved into an enormous global industry, with an impact reaching far beyond the stadiums and training grounds. It's an economic powerhouse, injecting billions of dollars into the global economy. And at the heart of this industry are clubs like Real Madrid, Manchester United, and Barcelona. These aren't just football teams anymore. They're global brands, synonymous with success, prestige, and a level of fandom that transcends borders. Real Madrid, for instance, has fans not just in Spain, but all across the globe, from the United States to China. The same goes for Manchester United, a club that has become a household name well beyond its home city. And Barcelona, with its iconic blue and red jersey, is recognized and admired worldwide. But the influence of football isn't just economic, it's cultural too. Football has a unique way of uniting people regardless of their cultural or geographical differences. It's a language spoken and understood by billions, a shared passion that brings together people of all backgrounds. Consider the World Cup. Every 4 years the tournament brings the world together like few other events can. People from all corners of the globe rally behind their national teams, and for a few weeks the world feels a little smaller, a little more connected. And it's not just on a global scale. Even at the community level, football has the power to unite. Local clubs often serve as a focal point for their communities, bringing people together and fostering a sense of belonging and shared identity. So, football is more than just a game. It's a global phenomenon, a force that shapes our economies, our cultures, and our communities. From its ancient origins to its modern global phenomenon, football has been a fascinating journey. And the journey is far from over. It's a journey that continues to evolve, to inspire, and to unite us in our shared love for this beautiful game. Indeed, the beautiful game is far from finished writing its history. That's a wrap for today, folks. If you enjoyed, tap that like button. Don't miss out on the fun. Subscribe to stay tuned. The excitement is just beginning.